Yes.
I got a star.
Good morning in Britain. Good morning in Barnesville, home of the Trojans. Thank you for making KFGO number one in the morning, number one all day long. The KFGO Morning Crew, Doug Leier, Amistadi, getting your Thursday or Friday Eve set for you.
Speaking of Barnesville, he's got Barnesville's finest, Sergeant Jesse Grabow, Minnesota State Patrol, joining us on the KFGO Morning Crew this morning. Good morning to you, Jess.
Well, good morning.
Winter driving is upon us. I don't know, some of us can be growing up Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and it seems like we need to relearn how to drive again when winter conditions hit. What do we need to remember out there, Jess?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head there, Bonnie. I mean, I think with everything comes a learning curve, and that's just it. Probably one of the most difficult and potentially dangerous things you can do is drive or ride in a vehicle. And, you know, the weather does not always help. But again, it doesn't have to be that way if we all just take our time. That's the biggest part, is just people trying to push it too fast in these conditions, whether you're dealing with snow, sleet, slush, ice, rain, whatever it may be. I mean, just slowing it down. Now, you yourself might be a pretty good driver, but we need to remember that, hey, if that vehicle in front of us now spins out of control, starts doing donuts in front of us, are we going to be able to react accordingly? I mean, they just presented the hazard. Can we avoid that by, increasing our follow distance? And, it just comes down to good common sense. Don't outdrive your common sense is what I like to say.
Jesse, how big of an issue is visibility when it comes to, from your career and your history, from the accidents that you cover, whether it's people not taking enough time to scrape their windshields clear, or the visibility has been reduced and driving too fast, or not clearing the snow off of their headlamps?
Oh, numerous times is visibility, whether it's the person's failure to just clean off the windshield, the windows, the lights, the taillights, different things like that. But then when we start dealing with whiteout conditions, with blowing snow and reduced visibility, I mean, that's a big part of it too. So it's just it's taking everything that's in front of you. Remember, hey, driving is always probably the most when it comes to responsibility thing that you'll need to keep in mind. But now with less than ideal conditions, it becomes even more important. So it's one of those things. Hey, I mean, this is early. This is definitely some early snow. I mean, even for us in the region, the tri-state region. I mean, this is early, but I'm kind of having flashbacks to Halloween from when I was a kid here.
Oh, no kidding. Turn your headlights on. I can't tell you how many times we'll say turn your headlights on when it's snowing, or our listeners will be texting into our 702 Communications Text Club telling people, turn your headlights on. We have any rain, mist, fog, snow, dark, anything like that, turn the headlights on. How big of a factor in crashes do you see it where people are actually using their cruise control during icy or wintry conditions, Jess?
Way too often. I mean, it's almost constant. So yes, keep that cruise control off on days like today. I mean, once you start getting near that freezing mark, it's generally a good rule of thumb to maybe just keep the cruise off. I mean, you just can have all these changes. What we dealt with a week ago, if you remember last Friday when we had a number of issues throughout the area, I know for us on our side of the river here in Minnesota, what we were dealing with is mainly, things seemed okay, but it was the bridge decks, the overpasses, on and off ramps. They tend to be a little bit more slick. So, I mean, I think it caught a lot of those folks by surprise that maybe had the cruise on and end up finding themselves in the ditch or involved in a crash. So it's one of those things that's preventable, but you just got to make smart choices each and every time you get in that vehicle.
Minnesota State Patrol Sgt. Jesse Grabow, our guest on the KFGO Morning Crew, and we love the information that you provide. We've got a blog on KFGO.com that you provide the information called Trooper Talk, and you had a great post this week. We recently dealt with a 911 outage in the area. If people still have an emergency and they can't get through on 911, what should they do?
Right. Well, it's a good question because, I mean, obviously it's the thing you think of. It. You've been taught since you were young, and we've had it for a number of years. But what happens when that system goes down? So there are some options if you're unable to get through. I mean, for whatever reason, and we talk about, well, what do you mean it's not going through? Well, it can be almost like a busy signal. I mean, it kind of has that fast sound to it, or whatever it may be. But again, some other options, believe it or not, are texting 911. Now, we generally say to call it when you can, but if that's not working, texting is an option. It's been an option for over here in Minnesota for a while, and and I guess if none of that works, I mean, there's still just the basic number that goes in. It's still a 24-hour number to your county's dispatch center when 911 doesn't work. But a lot of folks are like, well, how do you remember that in an emergency situation? So what I tell people, it's always good just to save that number into your phone. Just look it up and save it in your phone, because you maybe travel in or through a few different areas, and maybe you live in one county, but you have a lake cabin in another. I mean, to have those things saved in your phone for whether it's Clay County, Outage, just have those programmed in your phone, and that can help. And they should generally always get through. I mean, when 911's not working. So there's definitely options out there.
You bet. Great advice. And I wanted to ask you too, just because it hasn't been cold yet, but as soon as it starts getting cold, we'll start to see vehicles breaking down on the highways. If that happens to us, what would be the smartest advice?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, if your vehicle breaks down, it generally never just locks right up right there. So first and foremost, try to get as far off to the side of the road, to the shoulder as you can. Don't leave it in the traffic lane. And then do what you can to make yourself visible, whether it's the hazard lights or whatever it may be. But then let law enforcement know. So if it's on a state road, like an interstate or something like that, let the State Patrol know. Maybe you don't need help, but just let us know, because chances are we might be sending some resources there, and we could be tied up with other things to respond to other things. If you just give us a little heads up, like, hey, my vehicle broke down, I plan on getting it in the next hour, I'm getting a tow truck or something like that. Hey, let us know. It helps everybody out, keeps everybody a little bit safer.
Excellent. We always appreciate your access and the information that you provide on KFGO.com and on the air. Thanks so much, Sergeant.
Thank you.
You bet. That's Minnesota State Patrol Sergeant Jesse Grabow joining us here on the KFGO Morning